Hello, everyone. I'm John Humphreys, Executive Director of the Association for Equity and Funding, a group of about 80 school districts across the state, educating about 75,000 students. And we advocate around issues with regard to, in particular, revenue limits, the amount of money per pupil that school districts get that are highly variable. If you want to learn more about that, snafu conundrum, you're welcome to look at our website if you're unaware of how that system works. We're the only group in the state that's singularly focused on revenue limits. And because we don't have members from every school district across the state, we can advocate in ways that other groups don't, in particular around the issue of revenue limits. So we do that pretty actively. I've been meeting with members of the Joint Finance Committee here to talk about the budget repair bill, to talk about legislative sessions coming up here. We also do something that I see one of the folks who's dialed in today. I won't name her, but she said a really interesting thing. I was at a meeting of some superintendents and board members, and she said, "We've got to be better hunters." We can all be looking for the same resources, but we've got to be better about hunting down those opportunities to save money, but also to get new revenues in. And so this kind of workshop is something that AEF does to help school districts on those fronts to make sure that they're being as wise with their funds as possible. We have a YouTube channel. This session is being recorded, and we will drop that into our YouTube channel later today. And our guests, Linda Melius, is that right?
Correct.
From ETF, the Employee Trust Funds, part of the state of Wisconsin, and Scott Hickey, Superintendent in New Lisbon School District. So thank you both for joining us today. And any materials you want to send me afterwards, I can drop into Google Drive that we share with our members, and then share with anybody who goes to the YouTube channel, and then I'll send it out with a link later today. So the last thing I'd say is AEF is a membership organization, and any districts that are not members already, we'd encourage you to join us. We are small but agile, and certainly in 2023 had a major impact on the state budget and got the highest revenue limit increase for low revenue districts in the history of the 30 years of the program. So that said, I will stop yammering on, as friends like to say, and invite Linda to start us off here. And Linda was going to share at the beginning the wide variety of options for benefits that school districts can join the state system. I know we talked about income continuation insurance, which people in schools might think of as short-term disability and things like that. Certainly the healthcare is the big one, but I think there are also life insurance programs and others. So Linda, please take it away.
Hey, well, it's nice to be here today and educate everybody on what we do offer. We have, like John said, we have health insurance and we have different health plans or policies. We call them program options. And it gives you the ability to decide if you want to have what used to be called a full HMO plan. We call that our traditional plan. Or if you want deductibles or copay plans or a high deductible plan, we give all of those offers, those different kinds of program options, so that each school can decide what might best fit their standards or their budgets or whatever they have. Um, we have different health plans throughout the state that are go via the counties, and so that people can choose. We're asking the employees to choose the health plan, not the program option. So that the program options are up to the employers to choose, and then the employees get to choose whatever health plan best suits their needs. Okay. One thing is that you can only pick one program option for each school, and each school can pick a different one. Okay. Um, there is a
Could I
requirement.
clarify
Yes,
there?
John.
Sorry. Now, just to clarify, I think you would mean to say each school district could pay.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, each school district. Excuse me. You're right.
Okay.
Um, they can choose that. Like I said, they get to choose the program option. Okay. Then the employees get to choose what health plan they want. Now, all the benefits for all the health plans are uniform. So no one is getting a different benefit if they choose, and sorry, I'm going to end up choosing health plans down in my area. So, but like we have the dean plan and the university plan, they all have the same benefit.
Okay, so
So
the
the
state
employees,
negotiates the schedule of benefits that's consistent
yes,
everywhere you go in the state of
yes,
Wisconsin.
it's called a uniform benefit. The
Okay.
state also negotiates all of the prices and the rates and everything. And there's a very complicated um, formula that they use that I don't know what it is, but they have a formula that they use. The health plans put bids in. The board discusses everything. They talk back and forth with everyone, and then the board comes up with um, a number that we say we would want you to meet or have below your for your top premium amounts. They can meet that, or the health plans don't have to meet it. Sometimes it just changes what we call tiers as to what the health plan tier will be in. And the reason I mention that is because how we figure the 88% table, which is what most employers use to do the cost share with their employees. It is a state statute that an employer cannot pay more than 88% of any health plan. But how we figure that amount is we have tiering for the health plans. We have tier one, tier two, and tier three. And each tier, we only take the tier one plans to decide the 88% table. And I don't want to get in real detail for you right now because it sounds more complicated than what it is until you start looking at some of our materials and understand things for that.
Sure, that sounds good. And maybe this is a good time to just segue a little bit and talk about all the different insurance programs. So
Yep.
you're just talking about health insurance right there.
Yes.
What else is on the menu?
What else we have is life insurance, which I will tell you the rates are very reasonable for what you have. Um, you can pick, there are different levels of health, life insurance. You can um, have the employee pay the full cost of all the health insurance, or you can, um, employers can pay like for their basic plan or something like this. So there's some give and take as to how you can work your finance with that also. The ICI program, though, right now is probably one that I would suggest most of the districts try to join. And the reason I say that is it's on what we call a premium holiday, which means the revenues that we have right now are so high and so good that the locals that we call you our local employers, just so you understand that, because you don't use the benefit, which is good. So right now we're not collecting premiums for the employer or the employees. So this is basically a free benefit for you.
Boy,
Which, yeah,
that's a winner right there.
that's a win. Yeah, I mean, and it will do like you said, it does do short term. There can be some longer term with certain qualifying events and things that go on up to like the age of 65. Uh, but we don't really get into too much detail with that until we have an actual member. So we know, because sometimes we do have to break things down by what the situation is. But yeah, you can, have benefits up to the age of 65 if there's a disability, and everything is meets all the qualifications.
Okay.
We also are offering, in the last couple of years, what we call our supplemental plans. And these are plans for dental and vision, and then an additional accident plan. Through the accident plan is also through Securian, who handles our regular life benefit, but it is not included in the life benefit that we offer. It's something separate. Employers can pick those benefits. Now, the supplemental benefits that for like dental, um, you can pick what we call a preventative plan. The usual basic coverage also matches our uniform dental plan. And then there are two others called a Select Plan and a Select Plus Plan. They both offer a higher level of benefits, like for crowns and what other root canals, things like that. Okay. And then there's a vision plan, which will help pay for glasses and your frames and your it does some of the, I believe it, would have to check, but it does do some of the surgeries. So it's just an extra little benefit for people. They're not real expensive plans. They are, as a rule, plans that the employee pays themselves. They're not anything that the employer has to contribute to. So again, for budget reasons, that's a good thing. And again, I said they're not real expensive plans. And that's in a nutshell what we offer right now.
Yeah, and
Um,
what's interesting about that last section there, the supplemental plans, the district would be basically allowing the employee to leverage the power of negotiation of the state. And the dis doesn't cost the district a thing. You just opt
right.
in and your employees can jump in. It's some paperwork, I'm sure, and some things to get.
Yeah,
But
we're
what a
a
nice
state agency.
yeah, but there's a what a nice thing for employees.
Yes. Well, for like people who wear glasses or contacts or, it really does help. I will tell you personally, I used it a year ago and I got glasses much cheaper than if I'd had to pay for all the frames and everything myself. So
Now,
it is a
Linda,
big deal.
the other thing you mentioned was the dental plan, and I think
Mhm.
that's connected to the health plan. Is that correct?
It can be, yes.
Okay.
You can take the what we call the uniform dental plan. And to
Okay.
tell you the truth, it's the exact same plan as the supplemental preventative plan,
Okay.
but it's a little cheaper. The employer, again, would be the one who makes that determination by picking their program option.
I see.
They can pick a program option that has the dental plan, but employees don't have to take the dental plan. So it gives the employer the option to say, okay, if you want to take this simple dental plan, it's here, it's included in your health premium. But if we have people who say, well, my husband's got a really good dental plan, I don't need the dental plan, then they don't have to choose it and they can still take our health insurance.
Okay.
So it's an option again.
And as a guy who's thinking about next steps in my career, what, if anything, is available to folks who retire from the WRS?
um, if you retire and you are vested in the WRS, okay, if you join the health insurance and the supplementals, you can have those for as long as you want them. As long
Okay.
as you're a retiree, there may be different ways that you will have to pay the premiums, and we can't really know what that is until after the person retires.
Okay. And those,
Okay,
I think I've seen the bulletin on that. It's called annuitant health plans and
correct.
annuitant
Yes,
plans. Okay.
and I'll throw this out to you, but I don't expect people to maybe remember it all. But there's also something called local paid annuitants. And that is up to each individual school district to decide if they're going to pay, maybe like use someone's sick leave to
Oh,
pay for their health premiums after they retire if they take their retirement. Again, if anyone is interested in more details, that's when I can be contacted and give more details to each school district.
yeah. Okay. And I remember that from my days at DPI that the sick leave balance then transferred on a dollar basis to
Yeah,
benefits post-retirement.
yeah, it's a little different for state
Okay.
employees, but yeah, basically that's it works the same way.
Okay, so just to review, health and dental, a uniform plan, or I should say health with or without dental, a uniform plan with tiers. Life insurance with levels that can be entirely paid by the employee or employer. Income continuation, which we might call short-term or long-term disability right now, a premium holiday. So that's a win. And then the supplemental dental, vision, and accident entirely at employee cost, but leveraging the negotiating power of the state to get those additional benefits at a great cost.
Correct.
Okay. What a interesting set of opportunities. Really neat stuff. Any
Yes.
other closing bits with regard to the menu of options?
Not with the menu of options. the one thing I'm going to just reiterate is that there are time frames, and right
Yeah.
now most of the benefits are would start January 1st, and
Okay.
we do run on a calendar year, not a school year.
Yeah. Well, let's come
Okay.
back to that. I want to
Okay.
cover the sort of logistics of getting signed up and the board resolutions and things like that that we
Okay.
have to do. But Scott Hickey, our other guest here, went through this process a couple of years ago and wanted to ask Scott to join us to talk about his process, how he explained it to the board, maybe what he was facing with a health insurance renewal that may have been onerous, and then the conversations with the board, the employees, and working with ETF, and talk a little bit about his process. Oh,
Sorry about that. That always happens.
got it.
Um, so I'm Scott Hickey, superintendent in New Lisbon. So John asked me to, because we went through this for a few years ago, and just I want to point out, I'm not paid by ETF. I am not anybody. I get no kickbacks whatsoever. I want them to do well because I want my pension to continue, and I want them to have the lowest rates for our insurance. But I'll tell you, good, bad, ugly, whatever it is you want to ask me, I will most certainly answer it as truthfully as I can. And I will apologize ahead of time to Linda if I were to say anything that was like your website sucks. Let's just get that out of the way. I was looking through it again and just trying to find some things if I needed to pull it up on my screen, and it's not real great. However, it has a wealth of information and has everything you need, but you got to know where to find it, which is always interesting. So, anyway, going back to what we faced, I will have here. I'll just share with you because how I laid it out to my board, it just became numbers and it made sense for us. I can't say that everybody would do the same, but given where we were at, this was a no-brainer. Um, we're a smaller district. We have roughly 90 employees. So we have two really high cost employees. We were at a roughly when this happened, we were staring down a 19% increase, and that was capped, like it would have been higher. And so we were at 100, but I get it. Like we were at 156% utilization. It was tough. So, so I, even the year before, I was like, this is unacceptable. Not only taking all my personal beliefs of whether we should be paying for health insurance in this country or why we're the only in the world and we're the only one doing healthcare the way we do. We'll leave that all alone. We have this system and it is what it is. So essentially, I started looking into different options that we might have. Um, I like to think I don't have any ego. My wife would probably disagree with me. However, I don't need it to be my idea. I don't know. I mean, this is only my fifth year as being a soup. There's a lot of things I don't know. And once we accept that we don't know things, we can try to look at what we don't know and what might be better options for us. So it's a lot of it is ideation. So when I was staring down that 19% and the person we were working with told me that he's like, well, you're never going to see single digit increases again. I'm like, you can pound sand. I'm going to look at every other option that I can. I started calling other superintendents and I just started asking what they do. I probably made 20 to 40 calls, just asking people, what do you currently do? How are you dealing with this? And then I got to talking to Jeremy Beal from CISA 5. And he's the district administrator for CISA 5. And he brought up the whole, that ETF insurance. And he would say that he doesn't understand why more people don't do it. And we had a conversation and he set me up with a couple superintendents in smaller districts that they handle business services for that they brought over to ETF. So I talked to them and what their experiences were and how it all worked. And I was like, all right, I'm going to look more into this thing. So I started looking into it, and it largely gets into numbers, right? Like numbers talk, but also there's a problem with us being we're a small group. So having two high cost individuals definitely affects us, right? Like I said, we were at 156% of utilization. They were spending more money on us than they were taking in from us. So I don't fault them, but it wasn't a sustainable situation. So when I started crunching the numbers, well, I remember one thing Jeremy Beal told me: a lot of people looked away from ETF because of the high premiums. But he and I agree is that you got to look at the total cost. You got to try compare apples to apples. Because if you're talking about what your employees are paying, what the employer is paying, what you got to look at, you got premiums, you have to look at everything, right? You have to look at trying to level the playing field, or not level the playing field, but what the numbers are you're looking at. So I'll share my screen here. I think I have that ability, John, right?
Should, yeah.
Okay, so why do I have this many available here? Okay, let's try this one. So can you guys see this screen where it says underwriting surcharge?
Yes.
Okay, so I went through and crunched a bunch of numbers, but this is the final one that I showed to the board before we decided to do this, right? Because once there's a bunch of things that Linda and I worked with Linda in this process that they ask you for, and some hoops you got to jump through, which I'm sure she'll cover. I don't need to get into that. They essentially send you a letter, which I'll click on that right now, which is you don't get in for free. You have to pay. So you have to send in all your previous information about what you're going to have to pay to get into the system. And from what I understand, it's largely about protecting the group. And you can pay a surcharge that is a one-time charge, and they can charge you X amount of dollars for X amount, the two different types of plans that you choose for up to 18 months. And given that we're at 156% utilization, we got hit pretty hard. So what we did is they were going to charge us for 18 months. You can see right here, $320 per single contract, and then also $800 per family contract. Now, not to tick off Linda or anything, but there was a mistake. After we were all prepared to go, they did hit us later with an amended one, which they maxed us out for that 18, but it still made sense for us to do it, which I'll get into the numbers. Because most of you are business managers or superintendents, you care about like just show me the money, right? So that's what I'm going to do. So let me show you here. This is what I gave to the board. So I looked at and figured out what it was going to cost us to join ETF. So I made a table. Here's how many employees we have here. This is what we're going to cost. Granted, that's going to change a little bit based upon hires, but it was going to cost us about $861,000 over 18 months to do this. So we knew that if we were going to invest this money, there had to be some return. And so then, okay, I know what this number is. Then we go into what are we currently paying and try to have an apples to apples comparison. So what I did is I looked at our plan at that time for 23-24 was through GHT, which you can see right here. What we were paying, our monthly premium was $760, and then we had the premium cost per year, and then what we were contributing to the HSA, which came up with our total cost per plan under this. So then obviously that's what we were paying for each plan that we were offering our employees. Then I looked at what the 19% increase would have been, and it was a sizable increase. And then I looked at what ETF was for that year. Now we joined in enough time that we were able to, because we were on a fiscal year, July 1 to June 30th. So we were able to get in, and there are some timelines, which I think we're past now, Linda, right? For anybody to get in for this year, correct?
For this year for health, yes.
Yes. So you had to start the process earlier. And I know a lot of people are on fiscal year instead of calendar year. So we started early on this process. And so what I did is I went through like, okay, what are the total costs? And then I went the number of staff in the plan. And then essentially, given the numbers that I had available, we knew that our current plan with GHT, we were paying 1.5 million per year. With the 19% increase, we were going to pay 1.7. But given the 2024 rates, we would be paying roughly 1.3 million by switching to ETF, which, okay, that makes sense. And then I went to what our savings per year would be. I compared it against what our, and don't take any notes. If you want to email me or I'll give it to John. I've shared this stuff with many superintendents. Granted, it's a few years old, but I'll share everything I got with you if you
Yeah,
want.
and I'll drop it into our the
Sure.
shared drive and people can access it there.
Yeah. So I went through like what it would be. It was even a savings over our plan we had currently, but that wasn't even an option. We were getting hit with a 19% increase. So we were able to figure out that by making the switch, it was going to be for 400 roughly $400,000 we were going to save per year. And then so I figured out with the underwriting surcharge, what's our break even time, which at that time, not taking into account future years, right? You can only work with what you have. And I did do some estimates at other times that it would take us to break even 2.1 years. So, okay, we're going to invest, over $800,000 into this, but we'll break even on that. And then we should be doing better after the 2 years, which we are since we're 2 years after that. So we did look into other options. We looked at different plans, an HMO plan. We looked at self-funding. We looked at a lot of different things. But the best thing that I like, not only did this save us money, but we're part of a larger pool. I was able to free up our HR, which in a small district, it's not like I have a big HR department. It's basically me and another person. It's our district accountant, right? But I was able to free up a lot of things because ETF handles a lot of this. We assist our people, but so there were a lot of things positives for that, but also we're in a 10,000 person group. We're no longer a 90-person group. So when we get to the negotiations, which we have nothing to do with now, we're part of a much larger group. I know historically ETF had been at around an average around a 7% increase per year. I know the last couple of years have been a little higher than that. I want to say last year was roughly 11%. But still, what we were facing was, I ran those numbers. Either way, we were going to save money. So that was definitely a positive that we had. So this was kind of what I went to the board. I made a recommendation, went through where we were at. We were at the year before. I mean, we were over 100% utilization 2 years in a row, and I didn't see that changing. So I looked at where we were. I did have, just so you guys can see here, what I did get the amended surcharges so you can kind of see how that works, right? So when they maxed us out, and I think these numbers probably went up since then, we were getting hit pretty hard to make that surcharge and what we had to pay for 18 months. It's great now that we're out of it. But that was the cost to play. And I get it, ETF and I appreciate this out of our retirement system and everything. They're going to make sure that they're not going to put their members, which is also us, at risk. And like I said, I don't mean to speak ill. I was a little upset and I did try to fight for a little while. I'm like, this is bullcrap. You guys messed up on the numbers, not me. Why should I have to pay this? I already budgeted for it. But there was no movement there. But we still were saving money, so we still went forward with it. The other thing that I would say here is that the nice thing about this is when so I'm showing you right now where the 88% tables are that Linda talked before. So depending on your plan, these are all different plans you can choose where you have full premium rates. And then also like we did the high deductible because we had started an HSA for our people in our plan a few years prior. So we wanted to stay with that. So some of these include dental, some of them don't, but they all have different, like what it costs. So I won't look at 2027 because I don't want to look at that right now and ruin my day in case it's went up higher than I was anticipating. So let's look at the current year because I know what those are. So we're option 17. I think they changed it now. I thought it was 16 at some point, but I know it's always the last one. So we're high deductible with no dental. Okay. The nice thing about this is your people can pick any plan in any county. So if they travel or they find a network that they want to be in, they can pick it. What you're limited on, or I shouldn't say you're limited on, but if you choose to live with the 88% tables, like, so for example, we are in Juneau County. So I'm going to go down to Juneau County.
Can you also scroll in a little or zoom in a little,
Yeah,
Scott?
I can do that. Give me a second. Let me get to Juneau first here, which apparently I don't know the alphabet because I went by it. Where in the dibbly do? There it is. So Juneau County's here, so I'm going to zoom in on that. Let me figure out how to do that. Here we go. All right, is that good?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so what this shows, if you go to, I'll move down a little bit so you can see what these columns are from the other one here. So it says maximum employee share. This is the most that you can pay for a single plan. So we know that we're going to pay 890.47 for this calendar year, no matter what. The employees then, because they basically figure out what program is, I believe for us, I don't know, Linda, you could probably talk about this more, but essentially they figure out what the base plan is in your area. This is what you can pay the maximum as an employer. You can pay less, and then the employee pays the difference. So this is the monthly premium for a single plan over here in this second column, right, for our county. And this is what the employer pays. And this is what the total premium is. Then for a family plan, this is what it is. Now, these numbers may look high, but you also have to take into account, like what are you paying if you're contributing anything to your employees' HSA? That's what I'm talking about, apples to apples. You need to take a look at total cost all in so you can see if it's a savings for you or not. What I like about this is, so for example, our family plans this year, right? We're paying $2,100 roughly, almost $2,200 per month, right? And then our employees then can make a decision. They can choose what they want to pay. Now they also have learned to game the system a little bit with us, because we have some people that are paying no premiums because they've learned, and as they should, and we've even talked about having because our goal is never to pay 100% of their premiums. But it's good that they're working the system a little bit. Is some of our people have figured out we're close enough to Monroe County, which I'll go to Monroe County. So keep this number in mind. We're going to pay 2,100 because of we're located in Juneau County. We're going to pay 2,188. That's the and 3 cents. That's the max we can pay. So if then we go down to Monroe County, which a lot of people go through here with us, da, 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 da. So a lot of them do Courts West, because that has, I think it has Gunderson in it. And you can look, all this stuff's on the website. I'm sure Linda is better at doing this. So you can look at where you want to get care. And so we're going to pay for, they can do this system. We pay the max, which is now the same number. We were paying more than in Monroe County, but they can choose to do Quartz West out of Monroe County, and they're only going to pay $64 out of their pocket each month. Right. So the thing I like about this is it's choices. If you want to do a program, if you want to, for example, doctor out of Mayo, you can do the access plan, right, which gets you everything that you want, but they're going to pay $933 a month. But if you live in a different county or you want a doctor somewhere else, like I don't know where Menominee County is, probably in the center of the state. I imagine that's the reservation. But I mean, if you want a doctor there and take network health, you could pay, like, actually, if you look at the total premium, we in Juneau County would be topped out at 2,188. You just figure out the difference of what the total premium is, and that's what the employee has to pay. So it gives them choice. And that's one thing that I really like, and our people have really figured out, like, okay, if I go to, for example, like we have some people that if they wanted to do that, I forgot, sorry, Monroe. If they wanted to do Courts West, some of them were going to Gunderson in Royal, or Elroy, Wisconsin, I should say. But they figured out that if they go to Gunderson in Hillsboro, which is just a few miles away from there, that would be in Quartz West. So it's just making those types of decisions and knowing the plans and doing the research, because it's all available on the website, even though it's all hard to find. It's all there for them. So I talked a
So
lot there. So go ahead, John.
that's really helpful, Scott. Tell me about, obviously the board felt like these were great recommendations and they moved forward. How did you sort of work through it with the employees? You must have had some sessions before the decision was made.
Absolutely. So this is right. I don't know if you want me to zoom in on this. How could I do that? There's probably a percentage here. Yeah, give me a second here. So I had an insurance meeting with the staff after the board was like, we're going to do this, even though I don't think it was board approved at that time. But I went through and I just told them, here's the numbers. Let's go through this. Our insurance renewal was 19%. We can't do it. We're not going to do it. So I went through like how that works in terms of they would understand because they can't collectively bargain, aside from anything with CPI, but we do let them know that when we do pay insurance increases, what that equates to and how that comes in. So looking at that, this is pretty sizable. And if we had to do that, that was going to affect our raises for the next year, which then you obviously get their attention a little bit. So then I went through the 88 tables. I said, we're looking at plans without dental coverage. This is what we're doing. We're doing the high deductible plan because we already had made that switch. I showed them the same thing you just saw. And it showed at that time, obviously, the costs were a little bit different. We were paying a little bit less for our maximum employee share. And so I just kind of led them down the path. I gave them the links that they could go and check out. I went through and did a little bit like, okay, you can do Dean Health Plan. Here's the networks that are in it. You can do GHC of Eau Claire and Greater Wisconsin. Here's the networks that are in it. Court Central, GHC Neighbors, which a lot of our people did because it was the cheapest health plan. I think GHC Neighbors, they were paying for a family plan. The employees were paying $67 a month. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
and
That was, yeah,
just to reiterate, the schedule of benefits, the uniform benefits are consistent across the state. So if you can pick one of those providers that does the same stuff at a lower cost. Now, what's
yeah,
interesting is that I think from what I've understood, some will put in sort of sweeteners, so to speak, like we'll do this bit for free or that bit for free. And each plan can decide to do those things on their own, I think. Is that correct?
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I think so. I don't know if Linda wants to jump in, but I don't want anybody to freak out at these numbers either, because like I said, back on this web page here, nope, not that one. Where is ETF? There we go. So like I said, there's all these different plan options that all have their own 88% table.
I see.
So if you go to ETF and you go to employer benefits and then health plans, there is a chart somewhere, Linda. I know that actually explains all this. I think it's one in the decision books. And they do have ETF has great decision books and everything. Crappy website, good books. So you can definitely look at some of this stuff and seeing, like what you're looking to, what it's close to. But this was the plan that we wanted to go with because it was similar to what we already were doing. So let me go
Yeah.
back to the insurance that I talked to with our employees. So I went through all these plans and I didn't skimp with them. I told them what the deductible is. Here's how much we're currently paying. Here's how much you're going to pay. Base family plan, how much it's going to save you. I talked to them about the underwriting surcharge because if they did the math and some of them did, well, you guys are saving a bunch of money. We should see more of that. Be like, no, we're paying $800,000. We need to make that money back. Like that's not how this is going to work. So then I went through and talked to them what their like what some districts got for theirs, this was before I knew what the surcharge was going to be. And then I can show you another one where I did a whole bunch of other stuff. So I went through employee costs. Here's what we currently pay, max out of pocket, divided it by months, turned it all into a premium number. We also had an HRA option at that time, what it was per month, went through the ETF state plan, how that all worked, and just kind of explained it to them so that our staff that maybe on the base plan would pay less than what they currently pay. Like I went through all of that. And then so the other thing that I did, if I can find it here, is, and this is for the next year, I went through, and this took a long time, but I went through and looked at all of the plans. I compared it to what we currently were paying. So, and I went through total district cost, total family cost. So very similar to what you guys saw in my documents before, but I went to the GHT plan that we currently had, or we're looking at what the 19% increase were. That was employer costs. And so here's the employee costs. Then looking at, okay, Juneau County, I went through and I looked at, okay, here's the employer costs for everything. Here's the employee costs. Here's Monroe County. I did all that. Like you can see over here, there were some that were paying, zero on their monthly premium for Quartz West at that time. I went to Juneau County ETF plans for the next fiscal year, or I should say calendar year. Went to Monroe County because we had a lot of people doing it at that time. And then I went into monthly premiums and total cost, where they could save money. because it's all math at that point, right?
Yeah.
So, and
Yeah.
it worked out well for us. So at that time, I went through and I crunched all the numbers to just show like where they could or could not save money. And granted, these are old numbers now, but this is, I mean, I didn't have a lot of questions because I laid it all out. I gave it to them. I said, take it home, check my
Yeah.
math.
Right. Right. Right.
Like, am I missing anything here? And
Sure.
and I would say not that I got it right, but I would say that I didn't have any math wrong, which would be a surprise to my teachers back in the day. But like it became just very simple at that point. Like that, yeah, this is once you can have a fair comparison and you can make decisions based upon that, it was a no brainer for us, and it continues to be. Like I said, the increases have been a little higher than I would have wanted in the past few years, but I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Here, I'll stop sharing my screen here. It's probably cool that you guys didn't see
So
them all over
just
the
by
place.
way of sort of transition here back to Linda, but I guess the question for the two of you is how does it work when you've got a sort of a disconnect between a July 1 to June 30th fiscal year for school district purposes, but calendar year for health insurance purposes? It sounds like you have to do some timing to get ready for the entry into the new system. How does that all that tease apart? You're muted.
Okay. Sorry, I thought I had unmuted. Um, Actually, you can join the health insurance and the supplementals at the first of every quarter.
Oh,
You just can't do it this year because of our insurance conversion of our insurance computer system.
oh,
So you
okay.
can
Yeah,
join January, July, what is it? January,
sure.
April, July, and October. So
October. Yeah.
that's not a problem for us. It's just
Okay.
that we base um, our premiums are based on a calendar year.
Okay, sure. And what about like
Okay.
deductibles? How does that work? If you have an annual deductible, is that just
It's based on the calendar year. It's not based on the fiscal year. So everything by us runs calendar year. And the health plans, as a rule, they run every your benefits on a calendar year.
so if a school district
Okay.
joins on July 1, do they get half of the deductible until
Oh
January
no,
1?
no, unfortunately, no. It's the
Okay.
same deductible. And
Okay.
just Scott, I agree. Our webpage sucks. Okay.
Mhm,
You heard it here, folks.
mhm.
Yeah, you did. But when I will tell you, we have when I send out information to the employers, I send a page that directs you. I had the links right there in there, so when you call and I send you your what we call our informational email, you don't have to try to hunt everything down because yes, I agree.
Yes.
Yeah.
Also,
Mhm.
just to let you know, your increase for next year is, I believe it's 8.5% for 27.
Hey, all right. That's good to hear.
So yes, it is not going to be that high, hopefully, any longer. There were a
Mhm,
couple rough years for us too.
mhm.
So
So 2188 times 1.088, I guess is the
I don't
math,
want to
right?
do that right now. I still,
Okay. All right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, to kind of conclude from my standpoint, I mean, yes, I do. When any school district that wants to talk to me, they can call me. They can call me. They can send us an email. I think I've given you that information, John, to put on your site.
Yeah.
I'm more than willing to talk to them on a individual basis.
Hmm.
Yes, just so the larger school districts know, yes, you do have to go through underwriting if you have 50 or more employees. It's kind of a standard in the industry. Um, you can sign a resolution and you have to wait for your underwriting and you decide afterwards that it's not financially good for you. You can pull out. It isn't that you're going to be stuck for a year saying, oh my gosh. Up till the day you start your coverage, you can pull out of the health plan if you desire. There, once your resolution is signed, it's not written in stone that you have to stay, which, like Scott said, sometimes when you're budgeting and all of a sudden you get hit with a surcharge, it's not physically possible anymore for that year. And you can always reapply the next year because the health systems, the health people who maybe had babies or whatever surgeries that may have gone down for the next year. So
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
something option for people if they say, oh, not this year for us.
So, Linda, the
And
process is to go ahead. I'm sorry, Scott.
No, the one thing I would say, and I mean, I don't mean this in a negative way toward Linda, I mean, or anything, it's, you don't have to, I mean, yes, we all want to be professional and nice, but if you're not happy, you can leave, but you can always come back. And so I look at it as, because ETF serves us, right? And
Hmm.
I don't feel bad about saying some of the things about the website sucking, or I didn't like that the surcharge changed, because, you guys got to take us, like as long as we do all the stuff, like they're here to work for us. And that's one thing that I like is that, I mean, there's a part of me that's like, I wonder what the power would be if we had all state employees or people that are on ETF or any entities all together. Like, that's a hell of a bargaining group instead of all our school districts trying to do their own thing to me, which is kind of asinine in my opinion. But yeah, that's the only thing that I wanted to say is that ETF is there for us. I mean, that's
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
it is.
Well,
Yeah.
I do, and just so you know, John, I do see that somebody has their hand raised or however.
yeah, I saw that too. I want to get to Jill here in just a moment. Linda, just a quick question then, though, with regard to this, the board makes a resolution. Is that timeline different with regard to health and dental versus the life ICI supplemental plans?
Yes. The supplemental plans are now going on the same um, timeline as the health plans.
I
So
see.
that's quarterly. Okay.
Okay.
But the life and the ICI go on a, how do I say it to make it make sense? Once we receive the signed resolution, it's the first of the month after 90 days.
Okay.
So it could be, if you give it to me in January, it would be what, April 1st. If you give it to me
Okay.
in February, it would be March. So those two have a little more leeway in how
Sure.
they work.
Okay.
Okay.
Great. Well, let's go to the question. I think Jill had her hand up, and folks, you can feel free to just unmute and ask away. But Jill, why don't you start?
So, Linda, I have a question. Well, actually, Scott, I have a question for you. Do you
Sure.
still pay runoff claims
I don't know. I don't know what you mean by that.
from the prior carrier? When you
Yeah.
transitioned to this plan, were you paying runoff claims?
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, I can ask my person that does that, but not that I'm aware of. I know we had a transition period, a little bit where we kind of had to get, anytime you switch insurances. But as far as I know, we're not paying any runoff anything, as far as I'm aware. Never,
Were you
never heard of it. Never seen it
self-insured?
as a line in what?
Were you self-insured or
No,
fully funded?
we were not self-insured.
Okay,
Absolutely.
that
Yeah.
maybe makes sense. Then Linda, you said we would have to underwrite if we're 50 or more employees. Is that employees on the plan or is that employees total?
That's your total employees.
Okay.
And then one thing, just as long as it comes up, Jill or anybody else, is that one thing you need to know, and I think it's a percentage, right? You have to have in order to stay on the plan, you have to have 70% of your employees, is that correct? That are on
You
the plan in order to
you
stay
have
with it.
Yeah, you have for the initial enrollment time. And first, I have to make it really clear to everybody. Anybody who's in the WRS, I don't care if they're part-time, I don't care if they're limited time, if they're active in the WRS, you must offer them the benefits. You can't say, well, we don't offer to part-time or we don't offer to the janitors. You have to
Okay.
offer them if they're in WRS. But now I forgot your question after that. Sorry. Um,
70%
okay.
of
Yeah,
employees.
yeah. That is only once you have, um, that's the initial one. If you drop down some, now, Marion, we might look at you if you go from 100 members down to two and ask what's going on. But
Mhm.
it's mainly the initial enrollment that we're concerned with to make sure that you're getting the number of people, because again, like everyone else, we have to make it fiscally profitable. I should say profitable, but we have to have fiscally enough people to make sure that we're making the money that we need to make sure that the premiums stay low and everything that goes on with the financial part of it.
So
Okay.
Linda, can we enroll somebody that's not WRS eligible?
No, this is only for WRS employees.
Okay.
Now, if they would become WRS eligible and get enrolled, then yes, they could join as what we call a new enrollment. So if you get someone who went from part-time to full-time, and now they're eligible, or from limited time to part-time and they're eligible for the WRS, they can be offered the benefits at that time.
Okay.
Okay.
Linda, can we contact you?
Yes, of course.
I'll be sending out the link to this recording along with Linda and Scott's contact information, the materials that they both have sent to me previously. Anything else, Scott, that you want to send along? I know, Linda, you gave me some information previously. I'll
Yeah.
include their email information and contact information. Are there any other questions that are coming up for folks?
There was one thing I was going to add that brought up, God bless America. Oh, one thing for you to keep in mind is I know that our previous insurance, like a lot of times, and I don't know if it was just by happenstance, but in Wisconsin, I mean, I know that when we had somebody that would leave employment, not talking about retirement, but somebody that would be going to work for another school district, our previous insurance would cover them until roughly like it was like mid-August. And then that's generally when a new school district's insurance would pick them up. And that worked out relatively well. Under ETF, we've had a couple people leave that have been pissed now, but they didn't read or ask the questions. Like you cannot insure them on any month that they did not work for your district. So, for example, we ended school before June. We had some people left, and then they're like, "What am I supposed to do for the summer?" And I mean, I hate to be, an a hole or anything like that, but it's like I don't know. That's not my problem. Like, I'm not, you know, that's you knew that. We've had that written down that if you did not work for us in June, July, and August, we are not going to pay your premiums. That's why Cobra and other things exist. So, and I'm correct in that, Linda, right? Like you cannot be insured anybody that did not work for you for that particular month, correct?
Well, if they're in the WRS, yes, they can, but you do not have to pay the full premium for them.
Yes.
That's the key. You can leave them on your books if you expect them to be coming back at the next school year. I mean, if
Mhm.
they're actually terminating, then no. Once they've terminated their relationship, you can't keep them on no matter what the contracts read. Again, that's a state statute.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, if it's a teacher, because we know that they don't always, all of them don't work through the summer, which is fine,
Mhm.
but they can stay on your insurance, but they still have to pay their share of the premiums.
Mhm.
It isn't that they get 3 months free and you pay the full premiums for them.
Yeah, but if they're no longer our employee, regardless of the
Oh, no,
contract, like
that's right.
if our school year ends and their contract ends, at the end of before June,
Yep.
we don't even have the option to keep them on
No,
our insurance
no,
for June, July, and August.
nope. Yep, that's it. And all coverage ends at the end of a month. Unless there's some very strange circumstance, and then we would need to be notified ahead of time. It's just another thing that sometimes people think, well, I'm quitting here, so I'm going to go to a new employer, and I want my insurance to end in the middle of the month. Ours don't end like that. Everything ends at the end of a month here. And as a
Well,
rule, it starts at the beginning of a month.
yeah. Yeah. Any other questions? I know Linda would be happy to take calls or emails.
Mm-hmm.
Same here. If you got any questions for me, I'm more than happy to talk about whatever. Doesn't matter.
And we're always here to help after you get what we call onboarded. I'm still here to help people. Scott knows he can call me anytime and get hold of me. I have coworkers who are
And we
here to
do.
help. And yep, I have
Well,
many employers that I know very well.
website commentary aside, Linda, it's
Mhm.
been wonderful to work with you from my perspective. It really, you've been
Oh,
so responsive. And look I see you in the state office building somewhere,
Yeah,
rocking and rolling in service to our state. So thank you, really,
yeah,
yeah.
honestly, really
And
appreciate
let
this
let me
opportunity.
be because like I said, I'm quick to joke or say things that I don't like, and I do need to learn to be more positive and touchy feely and all that good stuff. But no, customer service has been great. I mean, I can't argue. Linda, every time we want We need connection. You or any of your colleagues has been great. So I would say that I am very, very pleased with the customer service that we received through ETF and
Yeah,
through the insurance. So
lucky to
Thank you.
have you. Well, listen, I'm going to wrap this up and stop the recording here. Thanks again to both Linda and Scott. Thanks for all the folks who joined us for this workshop. And this will be recorded and put on our YouTube channel. Certainly, if folks who are watching this are not members of AEF, please go to our website. It's $1 per student per year and provides things like this, access to information, as well as strong advocacy. So thanks again, Linda and Scott.
Well, thanks for having me.
thank you for having me.